Hi, homeschool world. My name's Connie Merritt, and I'd like to welcome you to the Home Educators Workroom. Today's topic is why. Why are you going to homeschool? Inevitably, there is going to be that moment where you have already made that choice and you're standing in line at the grocery store. Somebody is going to ask you, why aren't your children in school today? Or why is your child not in school today? And your response is going to be simple. We homeschool. And then they're going to follow up with the other question. Why are you homeschooling? And if it's not in the grocery store, it's going to be family members. Somebody is going to ask you why. And that why needs to be addressed before you go any further. It will help focus your homeschool, and it will help focus you. Letting your kids in on the why might even help focus them a little bit better. So some things to consider, and you're going to notice me referring to some notes that I've taken over here just to kind of keep me on target. But I'm going to go through a handful of the whys that I have heard or what I've personally experienced in my home that might help you in the process of thinking about this and getting this kind of pulled together for yourself. Some of the first things that I mentioned, they're not in any particular order. They're just here to kind of give you that starting process. Some homeschoolers start because of medical needs, either the medical needs of the child or a medical need that's taking place in the home. And that is kind of vital. Too many times students are taken out of school because of medical needs, and you're having to write excuses and having to work on makeup work with the teachers. And that is just a nightmare. And the kid is feeling behind before they even get going really well. Perhaps it's just the timing of when all of these doctor's appointments need to take place. They just don't work with the public school system. And the timing is not working for you. It's a practice in frustration. So some homeschools start because of medical needs. Something to think of for your why. Students need different pacing. Your why may involve a child that needs a little bit longer in math, or maybe they need a little bit more attention in their reading. Maybe there's some comprehension problems when they read. And so you decide to take them out and homeschool them because they need a slower pace than what's available in the public school system or even the private school system. And then the opposite would be their pacing needs to be faster. They are finished with their work. They are achieving great things in their work, and it just needs to go faster. They're done with learning their multiplication tables. They're ready to move to division, and that's all in one school year. School system's not going to address it that way. So something to consider is the pacing that your child needs. Social concerns, mental health come into play for some folks, and they just don't do well in the public environment. Now, the ultimate word that everyone hears and says that their child is pulled out due to bullying, and perhaps that's happening in your world, and the child needs to be in an environment where that's not taking place, where they're able to focus on their schoolwork and not focus on what other people are saying and doing. Some students experience isolation in school where there is just no one that they connect with, not even a teacher, no one. And they come home and are much happier than they are sitting in a public school environment. So that can be your why, is that your child just needs some time to maybe learn a little bit of how to deal with these bullies, to how maybe some of those students are going to move on in school. And if you decide you want to put your child back in public school, maybe they won't be in the same class anymore, and that won't be a concern. But that's certainly something that some students need to have considered for them. It's not a matter of sticks and stones or the whole words will never hurt me. Words hurt, and we've heard that more in our world than ever before. So things to consider in your why is how your child's mental health is. Other components that people choose to think about in their why: religion. Perhaps you have a specific faith that you practice, and you want that to be a part of your child's daily educational routine, and it just simply cannot be addressed in the public school or the private school section, and you decide that's my why. The other part is that maybe you might have a special needs child, and special needs children, not every school system can address that child. They might have a space for a wheelchair because OSHA said they had to, but they don't necessarily have a teacher that understands the needs of a special needs student. And maybe not even a wheelchair is the concern. Perhaps there is a concern with autism, that certain things that your child needs, you have been able to address in the home to this point. Public school may not be able to continue with that. So you decide to bring them home and continue your way of achieving that with your child. The other component to the special needs is also differently gifted. And a differently gifted child doesn't necessarily mean that they have high intelligence. It means that they may be really just incredibly focused in math, and that their math skills are insane. They are ahead of folks by like 2 grades. I had a student when I was teaching in public school. He was going to a college, even as a freshman, to do his math because his math skills were through the roof. So you may have a child that has a different gifting, and that the school system is just not going to be able to address that. You choose that as your why, and you bring them in, and you have the homeschool that allows them to move at that pace. And it's a little bit different than pacing. It means that they have a certain aptitude that just cannot be addressed at their grade level in public school. Different learning styles. Some students act out because their learning style is just simply not being addressed. Doesn't mean that they're a bad student. It means they just either aren't getting it, or it's boring to them because it's not being taught in a way that they understand it, or they feel like they're stupid because they're not getting it. And I kind of fall into the latter category. My learning style was not addressed when I was in school, those many years ago. And I had a sister who was considered part of the gifted and talented program in our school system. And I just was trying my best, but it wasn't being explained the way that I needed it to be explained. If you listen to the introduction video that I did, both of my parents were public school teachers. It wasn't that they couldn't address what I needed. It was just simply that no one understood the way I learned. I'm a visual spatial learner, and that's very different than just being a visual learner. I process things in my mind. I see pictures in my mind. And in order for me to do the best and the very best that I can do, I need some roadmaps so that I can see them in my head and understand the direction that I'm going and why we're doing what we're doing and how we get to that completed idea. So I kind of process things differently. So there are other students that might have processing disorders that those disorders are not necessarily a bad thing. It just means they learn differently. And they call them disorders. But every person, I believe, has the capacity of learning something. It's just that their learning style needs to be addressed. And so I would say that would be a why if your child's learning style is not being addressed. And finally, the other area that I've heard some people say is that they want the power to choose their child's curriculum. And there's lots of options out there. Some people think, well, I'm going to have to do this very differently than some. But there are boxed curriculum. You've got folks that can, like we did, we just kind of drew things from the area that we had. We had a great library, so I was able to do a lot with developing my own curriculum. But we did do some things that were already pulled together for us. But a lot of folks want to be able to do things so very differently than the school system can. The school system cannot take folks on field trips. They can't get out there and learn in the environment where something's taking place. And so you may decide that you really want your child to experience their school in a very vibrant way that the school system just simply cannot achieve. And that's not saying that all public school is horrible. It's just saying the truth, They don't have the ability to pick up a group of kids and take them someplace every time that a topic comes up that would be really great if they could go to a science center or to a special history museum. That kind of thing just can't happen like that. You can decide your why is how you want your child to learn and what you want them to have access to, the curriculum, the events outside of the home. Things that they would be allowed to watch in your home that perhaps they are not going to have access to in the public school or the private school area. So these are whys. And your why may fall into these. You may have a combination of these whys. But certainly you should have a clear definition of what your why is for homeschooling. That will help focus what you're going to do when it comes to the how. And it will help focus you when someone asks you that question. Our experience, I have one daughter. She spoke early. She read early. And in doing those two things, she was already ahead of most students that she would have been in class with when it came time for pre-K. And like I said earlier, we just didn't want to have to field a ton of teachers' calls letting us know that our child needed to be quiet. And it made more sense for us to start the process of homeschooling. My why was that. My why was also in the beginning stages, had a family member that was terminally ill, and we needed that flexibility. And it really worked for us to be able to be flexible. And we've had to be hugely flexible in our home due to family illnesses. And it worked. We didn't know it was coming, but we were able to roll with it, whatever it was. And it made it something that my why had a lot of these components that I've addressed in it. And it made it something that my daughter got the absolute best that we could offer her. And some of the curriculum was great. Some of the curriculum that we chose to do, we moved from it very quickly when I discovered that she needed something a little different. And so I'm saying your why is just that. It's yours. And the preparation to be able to address that with a grandparent or any family member or that lady in the grocery store line, if you so choose. Being able to have that firmly planted in here and knowing your reason why is going to help you so much when it comes to planning your how. So I hope that you will come back and join me in the Home Educators Workroom. Please like and subscribe below and add a comment if you feel so inclined. And I really would like for you to invite others to participate in this. I'm hoping to get more and more videos up and running as this process continues. So the more the merrier. Please share. And I'm on Instagram now. Look for Home Educators Workroom. And feel free to join us over there. There will be some content that's going to be different than what I put up on YouTube. Thank you. Hope you have a pleasant day, and I'll see you again real soon.